Spiked was born in the trenches of the free speech wars. I was the launch editor of a magazine called Living Marxism, which we launched right at the end of the Cold War, which, marketing not being our strength. In the 90s, we reinvented it as LM, which became this kind of punchy, countercultural magazine. LM was sued almost as soon as we started publishing. I won't go into the details of the case because we don't want to be sued again.
LM was notoriously closed down in a libel trial. It's important to know that because it means that Spiked was born from an actual struggle for freedom of speech.
All our supporters said, you've got to carry on, you've got to carry on. And we said, we've got no money. Somebody said, well, I reckon we could design a website for nothing, or next to nothing.
The key people were Mick Hume was the first editor of Spiked. Jenny Bristow was involved, and Helena Goldberg, R.I.P. The great, wonderful Helena Goldberg was the managing editor of Spiked.
Helena died tragically a couple of years ago from cancer, but is a hero of mine. Helena basically invented a way of financing an online publication in the same way that the current managing editor, Viv Regan, has been responsible for reinventing ways of financing a publication in the 21st century. We had a lot of debate about what to call the publication. It was my wife, Ginny, who came up with the name Spiked. There's a journalistic tradition when you're not publishing stories, you spike them. So it was like we were going to publish things which others wouldn't, but it also had that kind of spikiness about it. We aren't just reporting the news, we are fighting a battle here.
I think, like many people, when you come across it, you just think that there's nothing else like it. Irreverent, it was principled, it was also very funny, it had a sense of humour, which is often quite rare these days. And of course, Spike was right about everything, which is quite important.
I think we proved to a lot of people that it can be done, that you can punch above your weight, you can make an impact on public debate, an impact on people's minds just through the internet. That's taken for granted now because that's what everyone does. But back in the year 2000, it wasn't.
Spiked wouldn't be here without its readers and supporters, and that's really not a platitude. People are still putting their hand in their pocket each month and giving £5, £10, whatever they can afford, and we're so grateful for it, particularly for a magazine like us, which does want to cut against the grain, that does want to say things that sometimes ruffle the feathers of advertisers or anyone else. We're particularly grateful.
As a team, we often get to an issue before anyone else. Bit by bit, other people come around to your way of thinking.
We were very critical of the Tony Blair, New Labour, new authoritarianism on controlling how people lived, as well as how they thought. I think about 20 years ago, we invented the slogan, "For Europe against the EU," which was an important distinction between being internationalists, but at the same time being for national sovereignty.
Spike was absolutely at the forefront of making the case not only for Brexit, but by extension for democracy itself and for national sovereignty, for the right of a nation to define its own destiny free from outside interference.
Democracy is the great bulwark, it's the great defence against the hysteria of the elites who claim to know everything, who claim to have the right idea about where society should be, and yet have proven themselves to be batshit crazy time and time again.
We're far more interested in the universalism of class connections than we are in the kind of particularism of identity politics. The gender ideology, I think Spike got there long before other people.
Dividing people up along the lines of skin colour, dividing people up along the lines of sexuality. We saw that this stuff was poison, I think, before a lot of other people did.
Free speech was always a central thing for us because it was a kind of lifeblood issue. Free speech is the key to all other liberties in society.
How are you supposed to live a life that is free if you're not even given the supposed luxury of your own thoughts and opinions? It's not just about the freedom to take a view on events or to say your piece. It's also about having the capacity to transform the world around you, to persuade people, to change minds. It's a really radical phenomenon.
Spiked is such a distinctive publication. It really is unique. It combines intellectual heft with plain speaking. And I think that's a really important role that Spike plays. We say what a lot of normal people are thinking. When we say that we want to change the world as well as reporting it, we actually mean that.
Spiked is more than a magazine. We've run campaigns around campus censorship, an issue that we took seriously whilst a lot of people were still dismissing it as just the theatrics of blue-haired students. We did tours of UK universities, US universities, and getting a pretty frosty reception in many places as a consequence.
We have listened. No one can listen when everyone's shouting.
Also, I think Spiked has attracted some of the most incisive, interesting commentators, public intellectuals, pundits, broadcasters of recent years. Spiked obviously has a very clear identity, we have a very clear set of principles, but I also think in the current period we'd become one of those meeting places for people of sometimes quite different political persuasions, but who come together because they care about some core issues which we all see as under attack.
Spiked in a nutshell, I think, is just a force for democracy, a force for freedom and a force for good.
Spike's message is humanity is underrated. It's often fashionable in elite circles and academic circles to paint humanity as the problem. We're a drain, we're a blight, whereas obviously humanity, human endeavour, human ingenuity is the solution to the issues that confront us as a society.
We had a T-shirt in the very old days and a slogan that we used to use: ban nothing, question everything. Free speech is never the problem, it's always potentially at least the solution.